What is up, everyone? Just going to walk through the trade you guys see on screen now. It was a 1-3 on EURUSD. This was last week as well. I did call this as well in the pre-market. I think this was the 15th of January. So let's kind of get into it and I'll break it down. So it's this trade just in here. Really clean, and let's get into it. So we'll start on the 4-hour and I'll kind of work down from there just for you guys quickly. So as you can see, that's our daily range, that's our internal daily range, and our 4-hour is more or less from here to here. And I have gone through this and all of the weekly market updates and the daily market updates. So make sure you are subscribed and so on and so forth. So as you can see, we did come into, this is the first internal break of that daily move down. We did come into this decisional on the 4-hour, this extreme area, because it is an extreme area. You can even cover all of that, all of its field. We've come into that area and more likely going to actually continue with this bearish momentum here. Given that's the case, that's our internal 15-minute. This didn't actually mitigate our daily point, okay? It missed it. So what I'm expecting and what I was expecting is basically to continue with this. So what we have is that is our break of structure on our 4-hour. That is our 4-hour range. We now have an internal break of structure here, and we have confirmed this bearish retracement. And now, as you can see, none of these points hold any weight towards me. And I've explained this over countless videos. All I'm looking for is 2 points. The point that created the break of structure, which I call as a decisional, and then the point, the origin of that move, which I call the extreme, which is just the end of those ranges. So for me, this is my extreme area. So I believe that once price tells me it's reversing from this area, we are coming here, and everything else in between we'll just use to build liquidity. Down to the 15-minute, where we work out our 15-minute range for our intraday. What we had was this low and that high. That was the recent break of structure here. Now, if we read the same structure here, we have our extreme point. So that was our 15-minute break of structure, and staying really certain with our 15-minute breaks. 15-minute structure, what broke through this low? If we read into here, this was the last pullback internally in here. So our last point was this point here. So what actually happened is we respected that with a nice little inducement inside and then confirmed bearish structure. Now this was our internal range, high, low, high. This is the low that created that high. So it was telling us that we were at least working up from this area, and then we work the same way in the opposite direction. We work out our points and we go from there. So that was our extreme point here, but understanding that this is against the 4-hour momentum and against the 15-minute momentum, there's things internally in here that tell me that this point won't hold. So coming into this session, what I was expecting for is to mitigate this area, create some liquidity in it. So move away from this area here, create liquidity, and then move to the downside. So when that's the case and we've got our fundamentals in place, like so, we then move on to the next point. So what we're trying to work out is what our current internal bearish range is. So we've got our first break of structure, which is then taken liquidity internally here and created a new point. So we've got break here. This has then come up. So we've got break here, high to low, that's then pulled up and mitigated our extreme. And then ticks our boxes with our fundamentals as it's induced into the mitigation. We've then pushed down, broken again here. So now I'm trying to work out what is important liquidity inside this range. So working down in a very easy fundamental way. Now we're trying to work out within our current internal bullish range, bearish range, which is that to that, have we got a smaller range that's more important? So all we need to do is work on the same fundamentals as before. Do we have an extreme and do we have a decisional? So if we look internally here, this has now mitigated that decisional. So we had, this was the deciding point, the deciding supply that broke through this low, which we've now mitigated. This further pushed through this low here, if I can mark it out correctly, which then formed another decisional. So I now created decisional, extreme, like that. Okay. Now decisional and extremes, I only use those two within my supply and demand points. Given that it's given those points, and understanding the current price action and the context, what I'm looking for is this to bring in buyers, which means I need to break through some type of structure. What we had was a really nice breakthrough, a decisional, which is what I like to see. We then pushed up further into that extreme. This now completes and ticks my 15-minute entry model. So I'm happy to take a sell. So this is where we jump down to a lower time frame. and we're looking to see sellers in control. So what we've got is on the 1 minute, we obviously had broken this high. Like so, we can move that decisional. Broken that high. Internal breakup structure. Here, we then reacted off of this point, pushed up, and took liquidity. I was already in off of this, so this was my early entry. So what I worked off of was a trap entry I have where I get an internal inducement in here, which tells me that we're moving away. But the entry in which the guy told the group, and when I break it down, that they should be taking. So that was my entry, whereas the ideal entry, sorry, the entry I had was this one here, and this was the ideal entry. So, and all this is breaker structure. Okay, so if we run it back, we've got 4-hour momentum, 15-minute momentum. We have context that this is a trap. We now have a 15-minute entry model, which is the take of a decisional. Now we're looking for a reversal, which is just an entry model, which in this case, I'm looking for 2 breaks of structure. So what we have is racked off of here, new high, new low, 2 breaks of structure. I can now set my limit and go from there. Setting at the point at which this area creates the imbalance and the decisional point. Same working the other way, is that extreme. So we cover the internal high, covering this point just in case price wants to come up internally in this area. And then we set that targeting our 1 to 3, which is a very, very nice risk reward. Now being a trade at the end of the week, you can actually look at further pulling this down to like a 1 to 5. So partially in a 1 to 3, targeting 1 to 5. Like I said, with my entry, the entry I took was a slightly more aggressive entry, which was this one here. And I took 1 to 3 at the internal take of this low and then got off there. So price reacts back up, break even at the shift in external range, push back down, nice and easy like that. So if I was to list out what things I'm required in order to take this trade, this is what those things would be. You have 4-hour momentum, 15-minute momentum. I have my high time frames drawn liquidity, which is the liquidity below. I'm expecting to go bearish in a high time frame. Now intraday, I've got my 15-minute inducement, which is the decisional. I then have a 15-minute mitigation, which is my extreme. Then I'm looking for an entry model, which in this case is 2 internal breaks. And that is an entry model, because I know a couple of you guys were asking for some in the comments. That is that one there. So I've broken this down a little bit more in depth and how I got my entry in the premium group. So if you're interested in that, feel free to give that a go. That is down below. I've also got the free Discord and the free Telegram. Both are there. If you would like to have a look, I will pull up the proof again just so you have it. If you would like to look at either of those free options, they're there. I am looking at going live once a week on a Wednesday as a free. I might even do it on YouTube. So if you're interested in that, make sure to subscribe, and we push on from there. So any questions, drop them in the comments below, drop them in the Telegram. And for all the people in the premium, I'll see you for the live tonight.